we are celebrating the Indian manager who made a difference in his field to the people who has worked around him, and now also they are inspiring to the young.
I think there's a bandwidth problem. We can't hear anything.
Kavita ma'am, your voice is sound is lagging.
Not lagging. It's not coming through at all.
Yeah.
It's all broken.
To make their career in management. We have presented to you Dr. K.S. Basu and many our celebrating Indian with three of our mentors, Fernandez and Shri.
Kavita ma'am, you have muted.
Am I audible now?
Now, yes.
Yes. So 6 months back, we started with a journey with the guidance of our mentors, Shri Indrapal ji, Ernest Fernandez, and Walter Vieira sir. And we have come today to the 6th episode, which is on Shri Tarun Sheth. As you know, the model of this series is the students of management institutes are creating an audio visual which is giving the facets of life of the Indian manager who has influenced in his era and motivating and giving direction to all the students and young managers today also. Today we have with us the students who are going to present Shri Tarun Sheth. I will request Dr. Kiran Yadav, the mentor for the students from Guru Nanak Institute of Management Studies, to start the presentation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kavita ma'am. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and good day to all of us from across the world who have joined on this special occasion to celebrate the Indian managers that made a difference. It's been an honor and a privilege to guide and support the students of GNIMS whilst preparing this audiovisual on Tarun Sheth for today. Thank you, BMA, for this opportunity. Tarun Sheth is one word, aptly describing a person who's young and royal, both by his head and his heart. His thoughts, words, and deeds aptly justify this name. A man ahead of his times, an inspiration to the aspiring, a role model in humility, communications, learning innovations, and being able to handle human relations effectively. He is one of the richest human capitalists I have ever come across in my life. I understand from the students that a request for video bites on Tarun Sheth had such an overwhelming response right until late yesterday evening that we are going to be crunched in this session for time. So without much ado, I'm going to request the students of GNMS to present us Professor Tarun Sheth. Thank you.
We, the students of GNIMS, are delighted to present to you the smiling Buddha of HR, a title bestowed on Professor Tarun Sheth by none other than Mr. R. Gopal Krishnan, who we all respect and admire. Tarun Sheth was born in Vadodara in 1937 and schooled from St. Xavier's School. His father, Mr. Natwarlal Sheth, had textile business and was involved in a lot of social work. The then Maharaja Sayaji Rao had appointed Natwarlal Sheth to help to get rid of alcoholism in Vadodara. Tarun's family consisted of mother Narmada and brothers Anil, Pradeep and Girish. Tarun went on to complete his BA and MA in Sociology from MS University, Vadodara, wherein he also found his life partner in Pratibha. He then had the opportunity to become a professor at IIM Ahmedabad and the opportunity to undergo a teacher's training program at Harvard Business School. This early exposure helped him to become a popular teacher at IIM. Tarun Sheth decided to venture into tech corporate world by joining HUL in 1970 as a selection and training manager and served them for 17 years. In 1978, Pratibha had set up Shilputsi, an pioneering HR consultancy firm, which he joined in 1987. They together took Shilputsi to new heights. Shilputsi is now managed by Pratibha Shet. To understand the personality of Tarun Sheth, we have with us Galaxy of Achievers and Associates to share. R. Gopal Krishnan, eminent author and corporate advisor.
It's a great pleasure and honor to talk about my colleague and dear friend Tarun Sheth, Tarun Natwarlal Sheth, a wonderful man whom I met for the first time around 1970. I had already been a trainee in Hindustan Lever for 3 years, and I was staying after my confirmation in a building called Darya Mahal on Napier Sea Road. And I think I was the 11th floor. And on the 18th floor, a gentleman called Tarun Sheth moved in as the selection and training manager of Hindustan Lever. They told me he's a professor from IIM Ahmedabad. And, you know, I have seen his family grow up. He has seen me grow up and my family arrive. And I remember Purvi, his youngest daughter, was born when we were in Darya Mahal. So we've known each other that long, you know, it's now 50 years. And I was very sorry to see him pass away. Let me just say a little bit about my impressions of Tarun Sheth, because he led a very celebrated life, truly. And therefore, while to the family, of course, it's always tough on the heart, professionally, he led such a celebrated life that I'm really delighted that BMA is celebrating his professional achievement. Tarun Sheth was a sociologist. I mean, his academic training was in sociology. So he was a trained teacher. And the thing that struck me about Tarun Sheth is he was always smiling. Always smiling. Now, I have not seen him 24/7. I'm sure his family has seen him scowling sometimes. But that's a tremendous quality to have, to be able to be smiling all the time. Whether he was really happy or smiling, I don't know. But he certainly gave the impression of always being a happy man. The second thing is that I found him to be a terrific listener. Tarun Sheth would nod his head and he would listen. And if you had a pain in your heart and you expressed it and you wanted to express it, and HR people are supposed to do that kind of thing, Tarun was a very good listener. He could not solve all problems naturally, but he was a very good listener. The third was he was very reflective in his counseling. If you had a problem, you missed a promotion or you didn't get the right increment or whatever, after listening to you, he would not answer you defensively, but ask a counter question. Suppose you felt that you had not got the right increment, he may say, who do you think got a better increment? Why do you think he got a better increment? Have you considered whether somebody may think he's better than you? Why don't we discuss these sorts of questions? So, you know, it is a very nice way in which he would share his reflections with you. So he was a top class professional. TCP, top class professional. And since I've known him that long, I can say that later on in his career, we became very dear friends as well. And so I was doubly blessed to have him as a dear friend and as a top class professional. I called him the smiling Buddha of HR because some HR people are not even known to smile, but many do smile. But he was perpetually smiling. And he had this look on his face of a Buddha because he was always peaceful. It's rare. I think I can't even say I remember an occasion when he looked upset, even though there must have been occasions when he was upset. My official relationship with him was that we were colleagues. He was in the HR department and he moved from his place as selection and training manager to go to a factory to be the industrial relations manager. He came back as the head of management development. And I was having a parallel career as a marketing manager or a business head. And our families knew each other. His wife, Pratibha, was a great, lovely hostess. And the three girls were an absolute delight. And I can remember all of them and our association so fondly. We attended their weddings, the girls, and therefore you can imagine that we were very intimate. That India had such a top-class HR professional at a time when there were two other top-class HR professionals, in my opinion, all of the same birds of the same flock. One was his boss, Tarun Sheth's boss, Ranjan Banerjee, who was also the president of BMA, I think, at one stage. And Tarun Sheth's successor, which is R.R. Nair, who is, of course, still there in Bangalore. All these three people were probably amongst the best trio of professionals in HR in India. I am not wanting to exclude anybody, but since these three are a top-class trio, I am venturing to suggest that they were the best in India in their times. He had a great sense of humor. I remember at a certain stage in 1987, I think, he decided to move on and set up Shilputsi. Shilputsi is a firm that he and Pratibha, his wife, set up to capture the names of their three daughters, Shilpa, Atsi, and Purvi. And of course, when you have three daughters at home, and 1987 was not exactly a period when everybody had lots of income, I remember telling him, why are you taking such a big risk? Why don't you just stay on? And Pratibha broke in with a great sense of humor. She said, listen, it has taken a Brahmin wife. Pratibha was a Brahmin. She said, it's taken a Brahmin wife to convince a Vanya, Tarun Sheth was a Vanya, to become entrepreneurial. Look what the world has come to. And I watched with some trepidation, but a lot of hope, that they did such a marvelous job of setting up Shilputsi that it's one of the most successful HR companies, and Purvi runs it even now. So I have only terrific memories, and I am glad that I'm getting a chance to share in the honoring of one of the finest HR professionals India has produced. And he may not be the finest, that depends on people's opinions, but he would rank amongst the Bharat Ratnas, Padma Vibhushans equivalents in the HR profession. I'm sure he's now been reincarnated somewhere or the other, and I am glad to be able to participate in this venture of BMA. All the best.
Mr. Nihal Kaviratne, an independent director and the founder of an NGO for childcare.
Hindustan Lever referred to him as Tarun. They always said Tarun Sheth, as though the two words were inseparable. In another life, he would have been head of an intelligence agency like MI6 or RAW or the CIA. He listened carefully, analyzed silently, and said very little. People trusted him with their darkest secrets, confident that these were safe with him. He was one of my dearest friends in the company. Whenever I was hugely stressed or enervated, I would stroll down to his office and pace the carpet, letting off steam. We told each other jokes, and the tension melted away. He taught me many things. never theory without practice. He opened for me the black box of job evaluation by appointing me to join him on the committee that evaluated senior management jobs. From him, I learned the art and skill of interviewing candidates, what to look for, and how to winkle out signals of behavioral traits, attitudes, and their belief sets. Once a year, we stripped off our shirts, and in our vests, a bunch of stags would gather in his kitchen at Jal Darshan for what we called a cook-in. Each of us had a special dish to make. There was Ranji David, KPV Menon, DB Patel, Tarun Sheth. I guess I must be the last survivor of that group. They're all gone now. But it took poor Pratibha, Tarun Sheth's wife, days to clean up the mess that we had made in her kitchen. After I left India in 1984 to go and work for Unilever, I saw very little of Tarun until the last time when I spoke with him on the phone in the hospital. And he was cheerful and laughing. Tarun Sheth, with his shock of silver hair, was always smiling. He sometimes smiled only with his face muscles, and sometimes also with his eyes. Those who knew him well could tell the difference. Thank you. I hope that was useful.
Mr. Ramnik Parekh, Medical Advisor to HUL.
This is Dr. Ramnik Parekh. I was the Chief Medical Advisor of Hindustan Lever and all the allied companies, and I left Hindustan Lever in 1995. Tarun and I had a long association in the company, and I believe that HR managers like Tarun Sheth are made in heaven and employed on earth. He was a real human resource development person. He was intuitively so good at this. It is difficult to match such talents. And he and I had a beautiful relationship in which we used to share our experiences. And many times he invited me to be present on the interview boards. And I enjoyed the way he was interviewing people. He had one quality which must be very rare, because as soon as a recruit entered the interview chamber, Tarun will always make up his mind then. I don't know what magic he had in him that he could identify talents, good talents. And he also had the courage to stand up to the chairman to tell him that sacking so-and-so person is not good for the company, because that person in one instance was a chairman material. Well, Tarun, wherever he is, I request God to bless his soul, and I will miss him forever. Thank you.
Shiraz Gard, Private Secretary of Mr. Tarun Sheth.
It's a great honor and privilege to be a part of this documentary, which is being made for Mr. Tarun Sheth, my boss, my friend, my mentor. My name is Shiraz Gar, and I joined Hindustan Lever in the year 1970 and had the privilege to work for him for many years. Mr. Tarun Sheth had a strong and positive attitude. His passion for life was remarkable, and his approach to work was inspiring to one and all. He was truly a great HR personnel, always willing to listen. I still remember, though very senior in position, his cabin door was always open for people to walk in any time, and he would sit and listen to them and make them at ease with his great smile and advice. Words can neither qualify or quantify his helpfulness, willingness to help, and advice. He was and is a role model for many people. He was genuine and compassionate while dealing with people. One cannot rate a boss like Mr. Tarun Sheth. He was way beyond that. His philosophy in life was very simple: to be humble, kind, compassionate, and always willing to give advice to people and make them feel at ease. He was fun-loving, enjoyed good food, enjoyed good music, and of course we've had many meals together with his wife Pratibha and his 3 daughters, Shilpa, Aksik, and Purvi. As a secretary to him, he encouraged me to go further into the organization and help me further. I'm grateful to him for giving me the opportunity to be a part of his inspiring endeavors and share his valuable experiences, which have left an indelible impression in my mind. In the end, I would just like to say that a great boss is hard to find, difficult to part with, and impossible to forget. Thank you.
Swapna Masurekar worked in Shilputsi for almost 13 years.
To say a few words about the ever charismatic, enigmatic, and dynamic Mr. Tarun Sheth, and my relationship with the Sheth family. So my experience, my relationship with the Sheth family began in 2000, when I had the fortune of beginning my career with Shilputsi Consultants, and also a long-lasting relationship with the entire Sheth family. And of course, along came all the theplas and methi nu achar and dal dhoklis and ringnanu shak, and became a staple in my life. So my name is Swapna Masurekar. I'm an HR consultant, and I have worked very closely with Purvi Shet, and I reported into Purvi for around 13 years. During which I worked around a lot of arenas, starting from search and selection to consulting to training. We also started a segment which was quite new at that point in time, called outplacement. And outplacement is basically redundancy management. So we designed a program, Purvi, Ms. Pratibha Shet and I designed a program around the outplacement, where we could pitch and, get in clients and do the entire process. So the whole work experience with Shilputsi for 13 years was very, very enriching for me, and I'm very thankful and grateful because it actually happened at the beginning, as I said, of my career. And as far as Mr. Tarun Sheth is concerned, I share a very, very, very special bond with him. He treated me and took care of me as his own. So if Purvi, if you happen to see this, just a gentle reminder, I'm still his favorite one. So I actually didn't really work very closely with Mr. Sheth because, the humongous stature that he had, he, would be out traveling most of the time, working a lot by himself. So I didn't really work under him, but, time and again would kind of ask for his advice or if I had questions. But we shared as I said, a very personal bond. And, I made a lot of memories with each and every member of the Sheth family. To share a few with Mr. Tarun Sheth, it was one Monday morning, I remember early, and the doorbell rang. And there Mr. Sheth was fully suited, holding a box of Mohan Thal, which I love. And he was on his way back from Ahmedabad, and it was early in the morning. and he had to head for another meeting. But he made it a point to pull over, walk a flight of stairs, and give it to me at my residence so I could have it fresh and not, keeping it in the fridge, because he used to say, "Arey, fir maza nahi aata hai." So he and I both are big foodies. So another time, it was a Sunday, and he came over to my house in his trademark white kurta pajama with a thela of fresh veggies straight from his farm. And one was, yes, he wanted me to have it fresh, and second was he wanted me to prepare that Maharashtrian fare, with that bengan bharta and all that, and so that I could share it with him. And he would just love eating and exploring food. So that was another incident. Then one more time was where, it's just wanted to mention that, Sir would just shower his affection in the smallest ways possible, and one would be touched. So it was just a very, very big thing, and a man of his stature would make it a point to have a small talk with each and everyone, and it used to be the sweetest and of course enriching. So we would talk everything from work to our families, kind of gossiping about our relatives and, having a good laugh. So that was, Mr. Tarun Sheth. Another time, there was a family emergency, and I think there was a taxi strike. So he offered to drive one of my family members to the clinic late in the night, where, his driver could have easily done it. So it's very touching, and it's very sad that Sir is not around. And I actually would have shared a lot of stuff with him if he would have been around. But he'll always, always, always have a special place in my heart. And so for me, Mr. Tarun Sheth is a legend. Yeah, he's my Amitabh Bachchan. He has that aura. You can feel it. You could sense it. His presence. He would just enter a room, and you could feel his presence. Anyone and everyone could just feel his presence, and I will always, always be in awe of him.
Harsh Goenka is the chairman of RPG Enterprises, one of India's largest business groups since 1988.
Mr. Tarun Sheth was one of the key pillars in Hindustan Lever's foundation of high caliber management teams. He was amongst, in fact, the first management gurus to emerge from the HR function. I recall meeting him on several occasions, and it was such a pleasure always meeting with him. He was always very polite, very humble, very nice, very warm. He had great stories to tell. He was also very process-oriented, and his focus was really how to build institutions. And his stint with Levers was fairly long, and he therefore led the HR function under different CEOs who were all stalwarts in their own right. Yet, one of the biggest achievements of his was really to create a very strong pipeline of high-quality talent at Levers. He had an exceptional eye for spotting talent, which also made him very successful later in his career as a headhunter in an organization which he started, Shilputsi. He was a very astute judge of people, and since we both shared the passion for HR, I really enjoyed our conversations. He has helped us in many good prospects for our companies, and I can say that it went out very well. I remember him fondly as one of the early examples of management excellence in Indian industry.
Mr. Shailesh Haribhakti, Independent Director and past President of BMA.
I met him maybe, I want to say, 40 years ago, when he was president of the Bombay Management Association, and I was a member, and I had gone for some event of Bombay Management Association where I heard him speak. And I was so impressed by what I heard from him, that it left a very lasting impact in my mind. And that is why I kept looking for occasions to keep meeting him, to keep understanding him, to get back to understanding his philosophy, his way of approaching the HR function, the work that he was doing at Hindustan Lever. So all of that I began to build as a relationship. And he was such a kind-hearted and wonderful human being that he was always approachable and very open to meeting people and discussing with them. I was much junior to him, so he was very very kind and built the relationship with me equally as I wanted to build it with him. First thing I learned from him was humility. He was such a tall, very accomplished professional, but he was so humble and so approachable. That was one quality that he taught everybody around him. He would not show his position to be superior to you at all. He would always treat you as equal. At all points in time, made it a point to communicate that you need to work with people because you respect them. That is the second quality that I learned from him, that you need to respect people. Third quality that I learned from him was you have to be a very active and good listener. Nothing beats a conversation if you are not listening, if you are distracted. If while you are conversing with somebody, you are watching out for your next phone message or you are distracted by something else, it just loses the whole rhythm of the conversation. And there is nothing more important in life than being able to hold a conversation. He was so good at frameworks and processes and deep understanding of the human character and capability. He would not give you any lecture, so to speak, but he would converse with you as a friend would converse with you. And that sets him very deeply into the hearts of people. Because then people don't fear him. They don't think of him as superior or different. They think of him as somebody that you want to work with. That's the challenge that all of you should pick up. You should find that people naturally want to work with you, talk to you, interact with you, engage with you, and that's what makes life so superior and so much better.
Rajiv Karpe, accomplished professional presently based in Singapore.
Hi everyone, this is Rajiv Karpe, and I wanted to share with you the many years that I knew of Tarun Sheth. I first met him in 1981 when I started studying for my MMS program at the JBIMS Institute. The first and unique thing that I saw about the classes that he conducted was that these classes were not conducted by him alone. They were all jointly held along with his wife Pratibha, who was more than an equal partner in his journeys in the classroom. And today I will just talk about two memories which are forever etched in my mind and from which I learned a lot. One was a tea group session which he did as part of the OD program which I had opted for. This tea group session started at 6 p.m. at his beautiful residence at Nepean Sea Road, and it ended at 7 a.m. the next morning. Not only was it unique for the length of which the class lasted, but more important, he helped to peel the many layers of the class dynamics and helped expose the theory into practice and helped us truly understand the importance of authentic communication after knowing what are the undertones that happen in any group dynamics. The second big thing that I wanted to share with you was during his class assignments, he asked us to review some research articles and then we had to make presentations. But he made us do these presentations in the big conference and boardroom of Hindustan Unilever, which at that time had an office or headquarters right across the street from JBIMS. And for us as students, that was a big deal because it really helped us, frankly, to understand the ambience of the business environment in a highly respected multinational company. So those were two great memories that I just wanted to share and the huge learnings that I got from him. But in addition to being an outstanding academician, he was a highly accomplished business professional and above all, a very warm and sensitive human being. So thank you very much for organizing this event in memory of Tarun Sheth and his wonderful contributions. Good luck and great success to all of you. And I hope you all have an opportunity to interact with wonderful people like Mr. Tarun Sheth. Thank you.
Lakshmi Praturi, CEO of Ink Talks.
As a curator and collector of people, I've had a great life. I worked with the best at Intel Corporation. I have raised money for various causes in India as a philanthropist. I've hosted TED India, and I have been an entrepreneur running Ink Talks, and we've hosted over 12 conferences, curated over 500 stories. And in my entire career, everything I did was focused on diversity. Diversity has never been a checklist for me. It is a strategic advantage. I love surrounding myself with people who are different from me, be it different disciplines, artists, architects, technologists, writers, business people, economists, you name it. I've had interactions with them. And so diversity of discipline, geography, sexual orientation, gender, differently abled, it doesn't matter. I always felt diversity is the key of innovation and success. And especially something about gender equality has been a topic that's been very important for me. So for example, whenever we host a conference, I always am asking, do we have equal number of men and women represented here on stage and off stage? And whenever we are working with large companies making big decisions, I want to make sure there's diversity. Even in technology, when there's artificial intelligence and we are talking about what's happening, and I say, is the data diverse? We shouldn't make judgments based on skewed data. So this has been a pursuit of mine. And when I think back, the inspiration came much earlier in my life. And it's really working with people like Pratibha and Tarun Sheth has been very instrumental in understanding what gender equality really means. When we worked with them, they were never two individuals. They were a couple with a single purpose of making a difference to me as the audience. And I think they represent to me more than their prowess or as professionals, as someone who taught me what equality looks like. Even the name of their company, Shilputsi, is amalgamation of their daughters' names. So for all the pursuit of equality I have taken on in my life, I thank Tarun and Pratibha Shet for sowing the seeds very early on in my life. And I hope all of you can be inspired by them as well.
Behram Torkaman, presently Advisor to Environmental Minister of Iran.
Hello, everybody. In the name of God, the most compassionate and merciful, my greetings to my dear brothers and sisters around the world. My name is Behram Torkaman from Iran, a foreign student at IIT Delhi and at Bajaj Institute, Bombay during 70s and early 80s. The best poem that suits the smiling Buddha, Professor Tarun Sheth, is a poem from Saadi Shirazi. سعدیا نام نکونام نمیرد هرگز مرده آن است که نامش به نکویی نبرند. O Saadi, person whose name is remembered as a good man, he will never die. Saadi says that what is important for a person to do in life is to do something that remains and remembered as a good and positive job. Professor Tarun Sheth was one of those people who had a positive impact on the lives of many people, including me. I always remembered him as a good man. He is never dead. I remember in one of his classes, after hearing my comments on some case study, he told the class is one who sees the world in black and white. That is, he sees everything either black or white. He shouldn't be. What Professor Tarun Sheth, the smiling Buddha, taught me in that class changed my life. From that day on, my life was no longer black and white, but full of colors. I owe my colorful life to Professor Tarun Sheth. I pray for his soul to be happy under the shelter of God. Thank you all for watching me. Goodbye.
Mr. Jagdeep Kapoor, CMD, Samsika Marketing and Popular Brand Guru.
Hi, I'm Jagdeep Kapoor, and today I'm going to speak to you about the wonderful sessions of the great Tarun Sheth. Tarun Sheth's sessions were interesting, insightful, introspective, and were absolutely in with the times. It was a delight to interact with him because, amongst other things, the sessions were also interactive. God bless all the students and the entire family of Tarun Sheth who imparted such great education to my batch and to all of us, not only at the institute, but also at his residence. Thank you.
Rama Bijapurkar, a well-known market researcher.
Hello, my name is Rama Bijapurkar. I have known Tarun for a long time, right from the time I was 20 years old up till almost 2.5 decades later when he passed away. Tarun was a friend. He was someone I loved being in the company of because you talked about so many things, you learnt a lot. He had courage of conviction. Courage of conviction is always hard thing to have because it wins you a lot of support and friends, but it also wins you people who wonder why you can't be more diplomatic. But I think suffice to say, a lot more people admired him for his courage of conviction. He also had a terrific sense of humor and a lot of charm. His house was always filled with friends and admirers and people who loved him. He was the original feminist. With a wife as accomplished and successful as Pratibha was, he was always ever so proud of her. He, in fact, also called his firm Shilputsi. He used to joke that for his daughters Shilpa, Atsi and Purvi, he used to joke that they brought him joy and they hoped they bring him luck. I learned a lot from the way he built Shilputsi. He built it singly, he built it with forward-looking conviction. He built it to be a pioneer in the space in which it was. I don't think there has been an HR consulting firm after which has been built on the same foundation and with the same grounds. And he had ceaseless energy, an energy that made him interested in whatever it was that you wanted to talk to him about. And he, right up till the time after his first round of his illness, I admired again his courage. And I think when you live life larger than life with enormous amounts of courage and huge dollops of intellectual and social energy, you end up being a role model, you end up being an example, you end up being a, hey, I want to live like that, to a whole lot of people around you. And that's what Tarun was and meant for me. Thank you for the opportunity to exchange, to share my views.
Sunil Lulla is an advertising professional, presently CEO of an NGO. Vinodini Lulla is media veteran.
Tarun Sheth is eternal. He doesn't go out of your life, and that's the lovely part about having him in your life, or for me to have been part of his journey. His wisdom, his humor, his sense of food, his spirit to always smile regardless of the situation. I learned from him at a personal level about creating adventures in life, about being able to appreciate all aspects of society, about understanding how brands are built, and about leadership. It's a rare experience, not in a classroom, not on a work floor, but 1:1, personal. Sometimes over a wonderful bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label, a Johnny Walker Blue Label, his favorite whiskey. It has been my privilege to know him. We still celebrate all his birthdays and all his big milestones. It is rare in your life that Tarun Sheth kind of person touches you. God bless him. God bless his family.
So Tarun uncle was our neighbor who then became family to us, and I knew him from the time I was 13 years old, and he helped me a lot when I was doing my management and I was looking for a job. He was my guide, he was my mentor, from how to write a CV to what kind of jobs to look for. And more than anything else, he was the uncle who would crack a lot of jokes, who loved good food, who loved music, who loved long drives, and kept taking us out for picnics and all kinds of fun events. So that's Tarun uncle, always fun, always laughing and enjoying life, and that's what I miss about him.
Let's listen to the house elves who are family to the Sheths.
मैं इधर मुंबई के लिए गांव से जॉब के लिए आया। मैं पहला पिछला में टेम्पररी जॉब पे था, बाद में मेरे को सिलपुसी में वैकेंसी था, सिलपुसी में आया जॉब के लिए। मैं 20 ईयर से सिलपुसी में काम कर रहा हूँ। मैं सेठ फैमिली में मैं जॉब करता था, घर जाता था। मेरा फैमिली गांव में था, इसलिए मैं मैडम बोला इधर ही रहो, तो मैं इधर ही रह गया। बाद में सर भी इधर थे। सर तो एकदम दिल खुलास आदमी था, सुबह से एकदम फ्रेंडशिप। ऐसा नहीं कि ये वर्कर है, सर्वेंट है या बॉस है या गेस्ट है, ऐसा नहीं। सबके साथ एकदम फ्रेंडशिपली बात करता था। स्माइलिंग स्वभाव का आदमी था, ज़बरदस्त टैलेंट व्यक्तिमत्व। ऐसा नहीं कि कुछ भी क्वेश्चन पूछे दुनिया के बारे में तो उसका जवाब सर एकदम इजीली सामने वाला समझेगा ऐसा इस तरह से जवाब देता था। और उसका स्वभाव इतना फ्रेंडशिप था ऐसा कि कोई भी नहीं ऐसा किधर का भी आदमी होने दे, ऐसा नहीं कि मैं उसके साथ क्यों बात करूँ, ऐसा उसका स्वभाव ही नहीं था। उसका इतना बोलेगा तो सामने वाला को इतना इजीली क्वेश्चन कुछ भी हो जवाब देता था। पर और उसका ये ऐसा स्वभाव था कि मेरे बारे में बोलेगा तो मैं कुछ भी पूछूंगा, मैं जीरो से आसमान में कैसा पहुंचने का सामने वाले को हम लोग को भी पता था। कोई भी छोटा मोटा चीज़ है कैसा बचाने का, कुछ भी वेस्ट नहीं करने का, टाइम वेस्ट नहीं करने का, ऐसा स्वभाव उसका था सामने उसको। और खुद भी वैसा रहता था, दूसरे को भी वैसा ही बताता था। और उसका नाम उसका तरुण शेठ, पर नाम जैसा ही 70 उम्र तक वो 25 से 30 साल का जवान काम करेगा, ऐसा उसका काम करने का हुनर इतना ज़बरदस्त था। सर मेरे को मैंने एक उसका ऐसा था, मैंने जब रूम लिया था मेरे को सर लास्ट मोमेंट में बोला था कि कॉन्ग्रेचुलेशन। उसने मेरे को थोड़ा हेल्प भी किया, मेरे को रूम में लोन लेने से अच्छा बोला मैं देता हूँ पैसा, तो सर ने मेरे को थोड़ा हेल्प किया।
जन्मल होणार है, सेट फैमिली में पहली साल से काम करता हूँ। मैडम के सेक्रेटरी के थ्रू आया, ऑफिस में काम करते थे, मैं इधर काम भी करता उधर से ऑफिस में भी काम करना था क्लीनिंग का, और घर पे भी मैडम दूसरे एक दिन खाना बनाते थे, उन्होंने खाना बनाने को सिखाया और मैडम भी सिखाया, वैसे ही खाना बनाते थे। और सर को भी सब अच्छा लगता था बनाते। और हम लोग बाजी मार्केट वगैरह जाते थे, साथ में सर लेके जाते थे, बात करते थे हम लोग के साथ और खाना बनाते थे। और सर को सबसे ज़्यादा बुंदिया अच्छा लगता था, और आमरस, दाल, छोटा दाल और कटी, और उनके साथ बाजी बनाते थे। कभी कभी सर भी बाजी वगैरह साफ करके देते थे, हम लोग को हेल्प करते थे। साथ में कोई मेहमान आता तो सब लोग मिल के बनाते थे। सर किधर भी बाहर गाँव जाके आते थे, हम लोग उसके बारे में बताते थे कैसे कैसे गए, कैसा कैसा उधर क्या हुआ। एक बार केरला गए थे, केरला में आरती वगैरह आए थे, सर बंगला में रहते थे, उधर का सब बताते थे। वो आरती कितना जोर से आया, सब झाड़ वगैरह सब तोड़ दिया, ऐसा कि हम लोग को हर एक चीज़ डिटेल में बताते थे। सर हमेशा फैमिली के बारे में पूछते थे, कैसे है बच्चे लोग सब, और माँ कैसे है सब, और बच्चे के जैसा हम लोग के साथ बात करते थे। कुछ भी बोलने का, मार्केट वगैरह हम लोग जाके आते थे, हमेशा बच्चे जैसा ये लेने का है, ये अच्छा है, ऐसे सब बताते थे।
Shilpa, having done her MBA from IIM, worked for Britannia and now heads Shilputzi's US operations.
I am Shilpa Shet and I am the eldest daughter of Mr. Tarun Sheth. I graduated in Mathematics and Statistics from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and then did my MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. My father was my best friend and my guru. He was a great listener. I could tell him anything and he would not judge. Go to him with any problem or dire situation and he would say, "It will be okay." And miraculously, almost because Pa said so, it would be okay. He was such a calming influence that it was no wonder so many people wanted his counsel both in personal and professional life. He got along with everyone, from toddlers to teenagers to septuagenarians. He could talk to everyone at their level. And he respected everyone, from a chauffeur to the chairman of a company. It didn't matter. He was equally happy having dal chawal at a Pune's house as he was sipping champagne and tasting caviar at the chateau of some famous personality. And his joy to live, his joyful life, it was completely unparalleled. He took happiness and joy from the little and the big things in life. Whether it was just a tree laden with beautiful flowers, or a grand vista in Switzerland, or a delicious dish cooked at home, an article he had read, or a joke that was shared. He was a man of diverse interests, From business to economics to politics to nuclear physics, he was curious about it all and wanted to learn more and more. And of course, he was a wonderful teacher. He was certainly my guru. And he taught with examples and with stories. Stories of Madame Curie, who did not let her circumstance come in the way of her passion. Stories of Dr. Albert Schweitzer, whose selfless service in Africa was a role model for us all. And then there was this one story which really stuck with me. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, the industrialist, the scientist, and one of the founders of IIM, passed away, and his daughter Mallika Sarabhai performed his Agni Sanskar contrary to tradition. I was just a little girl at that time, and my father called me and showed me the newspaper and said, "Don't let anyone tell you that girls can't do this or that. Girls can do anything they set their mind to." I'm very proud to say that when it was his turn, it was my sister and I who performed his last rites. But these are the inspiring stories that I was brought up on, and this was his way of teaching me values and ways of life and the way to live. I remember my father as the most kind, generous, warm, smiling person who was incredibly well-read and well-informed on such a range of topics. But he never let on how much he had achieved, how generous he had been, and how many people he had helped in life. And that is why he never ceases to inspire me every single day. And there is not one day when I don't miss him.
Dr. Atsi is an accomplished international CXO, a teacher, and a CSR champion in equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Hello everyone, my name is Atsi Shet and I'm the middle daughter of Tarun and Pratibha Shet. I'm delighted today to have the opportunity to share with you 3 things that I believe exemplify how my father lived his personal and his professional life to the fullest. So first, whenever I saw my father, whether he was diving into the complexity of a new organizational structure or the simplicity of eating a freshly cut mango, he would give equal concentration to both these very different types of tasks and derive an equal amount of immense pleasure from both. Then I have a story about when my father would drive my friends and me to school on his way to work, usually because we'd missed the school bus. But instead of focusing the car ride on why we were late, how we could do better the next time, he would focus on what we were looking forward to most in the school day ahead and what we expected to learn from it. Last, whenever I saw my father or heard my father talk about the accomplishments of others, there was this twinkle of pride in his eyes, whether he was talking about colleagues, students, friends, or family. He took pride in their accomplishments and really enjoyed nurturing those accomplishments himself whenever he could. So what have I learned from my father? I've learned that to walk this tightrope of work-life balance, as we call it these days, you need to work hard, you need grace, and you need a sense of humor. You need to enjoy your work immensely, but you also need to enjoy the people that you work with and you live with. And lastly, of course, I learned from him the simple pleasure of eating a freshly cut mango. It's a divine pleasure. Thank you so much for honoring his legacy with us today. We really appreciate it.
Purvi now holds the reins of Shilputsi India and is taking it to greater heights with holistic services.
एक दिन बिक जाएगा माटी के मोल, जग में रह जाएंगे प्यारे तेरे बोल. The joy is in trying, the joy is in the journey, the joy is in putting all of yourself in your work. The success will follow. These words that my father left behind for me constantly ring in my ears. My father was a unique man with a unique parenting style. He taught me to embrace failure before looking to succeed. He trained me on how to get up after falling before clamoring for a finish line. He steered me to make decisions before I knew I was even making them. He demonstrated how to do right by people, respect people without losing oneself. He showed me how to be compassionate, how to love people, how to comfort people, and expect nothing in return. He inculcated the spirit of sincerity, hard work, and putting in all of oneself in whatever it is that one is doing, by constantly emphasizing the futility of cynicism. Above all, what I enjoyed with my father, though, was his passion for the littlest things. He and I would have a passion for food and laughing heartily. We would sit for hours together, talking about food, thinking about food, eating food, and even cooking together. Tarun Sheth was the guru of human resources. He was known by global CEOs, CXOs, industrialists. They knew they could call him any time of the day or night, and he would be there for him. He was known for his sage advice. He was known for his intellect, his wisdom. But I think the biggest attribute that he brought to each of the interactions he had was his authenticity. He was an authentic man who never faked or never showed something that he didn't feel. And I think that simplicity and authenticity is what appealed to all the people that he worked with. Always kind-hearted, jovial, and absolutely gentle and genuine. He was concerned for all. There are many anecdotes that I can think of, but today I'm going to talk about two. One is a personal one. I was 13 years old and failed a math exam. I'd studied hard for it. I was quite shocked, but I was very afraid of what my parents would say when they got back home. They learnt of the catastrophe when they came home, told me to get ready and get into the car. We drove quietly. My father didn't say a word. He drove the car, stopped at a 5-star hotel. We didn't go to 5-star hotels in those days. We got off, went to the restaurant, and my parents ordered a cake. They told me we were celebrating. We were celebrating a life lesson that I had learned today. They said you can learn an equation and a formula anytime. That's not a big deal. Anyone can learn it. But learning how to fail is the biggest achievement of your life. So this was something that I, as a 13-year-old, didn't understand. But I have to say that as an adult, it has stayed with me. I've learned to respect my successes as much as I have learned to respect my failures. The second story is about empathy. My father used to go for a walk, and one day he saw this lady who was at a corner shop. She'd made a small shelter for herself under the shop. The shopkeeper had given her this space. He tried to persuade her to go to a shelter for the homeless, but this lady refused. So my father decided that he would help her because she didn't beg. She didn't ask for anything. And he respected that. Every now and then, he would take something for her, warm clothes, a blanket. He would just sit and chat with her sometimes. Every time he traveled, and he traveled a lot, he would come back from the airport and bring her a small treat from wherever it is that he had gone. She would bless him, and he would love that. She passed away after 2 years, and my father cried copious tears that night. We couldn't figure out who had touched whose life more. He was always empathetic and always there for people. Values-driven, gentle, humble, dedicated family man. Tarun Bhai, as he was always known to people, he was known for his smile, integrity, and warmth. His lifelong work remains embodied in the goodness of the people he touched. He made himself quietly indispensable, and he always will remain distinctly unforgettable. My name is Pratibha Shet. I am Pratibha and Tarun Sheth's third and youngest daughter. I'm also the CEO of Shilputsi Consultants, where he worked for many years before he passed away. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity today to talk.
And finally, the lady that contributed the largest share in Mr. Tarun Sheth's success and achievements, Mrs. Pratibha Shet. First Lady with her own firm in 1978, and the biggest compliment to life and time of Mr. Tarun Sheth.
Tarun and I met in Baroda University, and students over there used to make marriage settlement university. So we also did the same thing. He was also doing sociology and I also was doing sociology. One or two things which I remember while we were studying was that I used to stay in the hostel and used to come to the college on bicycle. So there was a place where we had to go down and up again. So always he used to accompany me, taking my cycle down and then up. The other thing I remember is that he had a garden. His father and both of them used to tend to the garden. And he used to bring one yellow rose every day for me. And so my girls, my friends used to tease me. But slowly and gradually I get to know him, and we liked each other. And their home was also nearby, so I used to go to their house. His mother was very happy with me. And what I liked about him was that he was a very empathetic person towards his parents, and he was very dedicated to his parents. He had two younger brothers, so I used to go to their house, so they used to like me, and we used to get along very well with his younger brothers. I used to tie Rakhi and all that. And the funny thing was that my mother-in-law wanted me to tie Rakhi to Tarun also, but I didn't. In those days, I didn't realize that even if I tie Rakhi, I can marry him. But the belief was that if you tie Rakhi, you can't marry him. So I was not tying Rakhi to him. And my mother-in-law was very upset about it, that why you are not trying. Anyway, later on she realized that we loved each other, and it went on for 5 years, as I said, because we worked in the project and we came back, and then I started masters in social work and he joined masters in sociology. So it went on for that, and then after 5 years we got married. And our marriage itself was a big thing because I was a Brahmin and he was a Baniya. So in those days it was a big thing that you should not marry. But we decided to, and my parents also did mine. And some of my uncles didn't come for my wedding. But anyway, we went on. He enjoyed his life. He used to call his friends whenever there is rain to eat pakoras. He loved pakoras. He loved mangoes. And he loved mango ras. So mango ras, though in the season he would only live on mango ras. The philosophy of life, both of us had empathizing with people, being kind to people, having the relationship with people. So he had a big family, I also had a huge family, and we always used to love each other and very kind to each other. And the philosophy of life which he had and I had, because of which we loved each other, was the kindness of people, empathizing people, being nice to people. And therefore he was also always nice to the helpers, who he never considered as helpers. He used to consider as our family members, and he used to laugh and he used to tell stories to them, and he loved everybody. So that was the kind of life we had. Even our relatives, our family members, they also love us so much. And they used to come here every now and then. And sometimes it was because of somebody is not well or something like that. So they used to stay with us for the treatment because they used to get the doctors over here, and therefore we used to help them so much, not only me but Tarun and my doctors also. And whenever there is somebody who needs help, they used to always go with them to the hospital, meet the doctor. If they can't speak to the doctor, they will talk to the doctor and say what they want. So that is our philosophy of life of our family. So all of us like that, and that is what we have tried to inculcate in our children.
I hope you all enjoyed watching this AV as we did making it. A few qualities of Mr. Tarun Sheth that single him out are trustworthiness, good listener, sense of humor, openness to ideas, respect for others, clarity of thinking, ability to recognize people, fun-loving, excellent host. And lessons we learned from him are: humility is the key to happiness. Focus on the present. It's a gift. Equality is non-negotiable. Learning is perpetual. To win, smile. We, the GNIMS team, Shweta Kamble, Shreyas Jadhav, Divya Kesarwani, Amit Mishra, Rutuja Tupsamudre, Siddesh Satam, Sanket Dalvi, are thankful for this opportunity.
Thank you, the GNIMS team, for this wonderful journey that you've taken us through on a holistic path of all that consisted of the great Tarun Sheth. For any errors, omissions, we apologize. It is indeed extremely difficult to cover or capture the vibrant and spiritual journey of Tarun Sheth in a short time. Normally, if he was around, his sessions, as we heard, would start at 6 p.m. and probably end the next day at 7 a.m. But considering the fact that we have a module and system in place, I think we hope that we have been able to unpeel the great personality that Mr. Tarun Sheth had and shared with everyone. I would now request the original conceivers of the idea of celebrating the Indian managers that made a difference, Mr. Indrapal Singh ji, Mr. Walter Vieira, and I think Mr. Ernest Fernandez is not with us today. But may I request Mr. Indrapal ji Singh to make his comments on the sessions that the idea and the process that you've set in place. Thank you so much. Sir, you're on mute.
This modern technology always gets you. So he was our prof at IIM Ahmedabad, and in the second term, he was taking organization structure 1 and 2, two courses. Being young students, we didn't realize the importance of that topic, but it was something, we thought we will tackle when we grew up in our careers. The special thing about Tarun Bhai was that he had great self-esteem, and that's what is reflected the way he dealt with everyone. The various testimonies that we heard. He was also physically very fit, and I think he played volleyball, and we gave up playing volleyball because he would thrash us very badly. Not only that he was tall, but he was very agile and a good hitter as well. So we gave up volleyball, but in badminton we could beat him because we were better at that. Then after we came to Bombay, he quit IIM Ahmedabad. Then we kept on meeting during his career with the Levers and kept in touch somehow. And the wonderful thing was that whenever we met, he was extremely fresh, and the kind of questions he would ask us, what's happening in our careers, how well we are doing, and so on. And whenever we wanted help or clarification, he would be most forthcoming. The open days of open day on Diwali was another thing I remember very well. That function or those events, Diwali, anybody could walk in throughout the day, anytime, and partake in the family celebrations was another wonderful thing that Pratibha Shet and Tarun Bhai used to host. And like everybody mentioned, he had great sense of humor. Not only he would listen to your jokes, which may not be so good as his, but he would laugh so heartily that you felt really great. Of course, he had better stories to tell you. If I had time, I would share one of my favorite ones later. And then many years later, I was talking about the problems at our own organization. So he asked very pointedly that, have you looked at the structure? And then I remembered, my God, for last 35 years, we have forgotten what he taught us at the second term at IIM Ahmedabad and so on. So he had a great insight into kind of getting into a problem and coming at the core as to what is the essential thing that you you have to do to solve the problems or get out of the situation. His food for love, music, etc. Was legendary. Asti's wedding dinner is still in my memory, one of the finest that many of us who attended would have attended. The decor was so classic with kantan and marigold flowers, very simple, very classy. And the food was by Food Link of Chembur. Outstanding food was there. And, I can never forget that particular function, this thing. The way he brought up his three daughters. Once I asked him that, Tarun Bhai, you are so successful and you're so great. So he said, do you know what happens when you're ruled by 4 women at home? This is what happens. I said, we can't handle 1 and you're handling 4. So this sort of conversations used to have, but he would take his success very lightly and never make it overwhelming for the others. Now, let me share his favorite joke. He had a great way to impart wisdom. So he used to tell us a story that there was in the class, a bright student, they used to always sit in the front bench. And the people at the back would make a lot of noise and, mischief. So this teacher would come and slap the guy, the first guy that was sitting there. So this guy asked us, sir, why are you slapping me? I'm a kind of a good guy. Why do you slap me? So he said, have you looked at your maths homework? He said, there are so many errors in that. So that's why I slapped you. So next day morning, that fellow went back, the student went back and he did all the sums correctly. He said, sir, again, he slapped him. So he said, sir, now slap for what? So he said, see, you have done all the sums right, but look at your handwritings. The handwritings are not good enough. So that's why I slapped you. The third day, this fellow did all the sums right, handwritings were perfect and so on, like the way convent educated people write. And yet he got a slap. So he said, why slap today, sir? Everything was good. The sum was right, was done well, and so on and so forth. So he said, this is just to teach you that this is an unfair world. So this story used to narrate quite often when, growing in our careers, we would say that this is not happening. We are not getting promotions and so on and so forth. So he said, this is an unfair world. You have to accept it and get by. And this is how it happens. So this point has been made that he was a wonderful teacher. And he used to walk a lot. And whenever we had that extra drink and I would crib that I must now stop and go home, he said, don't worry, you can stay overnight. And we'll go for 1 extra mile of a walk on Worli Seaface next day morning and you will be fine. I never joined him for that extra walk, thankfully. But he was a great walker. And I could imagine what fun it would have been to take walks with him and chat about different subjects. So you rarely meet a person of that kind of a total human being, in your lives and so on. So Pratibha Ben, it was also my pleasure to speak to you a few days back. And I hope to stay in touch with you. And all the family, please take care and let's connect sometime. And Kiranji, thank you so much for putting in this effort for this wonderful program. It really revived our memories of more than 50 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. May I request Mr. Walter Vieira to share how they picked Mr. Tarun Sheth as one of the celebrities to celebrate today as a person who made a difference to Indian management. As
Is Walter there?
I think he's there. Walter sir, are you there? Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself, I think. I
No.
think.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, Walter. Yep.
I'm away in Dubai. I'm having some difficulty with my phone. So please excuse me.
Okay, thank you. No issues. Thank you so much for connecting with us in spite of all the difficulties. Okay. We have about 10 minutes more so that anyone who wishes to share with us anything with regard to Tarun Sheth is welcome to unmute yourself.
May I stake claim?
Yeah, Mr. Nair.
May I stake claim by saying that my association with Tarun lasted for over 35 years. He was in my selection board way back in 1973, and I took over from him, and that relationship continued through the period of his life and beyond. So I'm delighted, and really I wish to thank Gopal for posting this interesting function that BMA has organized in our lever group. And that alerted me that whatever has been scheduled for me this evening is dedicated for Tarun, and share and learn from the observations and experiences of all of you with respect to Tarun's life. This is an occasion also to celebrate Tarun's life. And therefore, I just wanted to first acknowledge with gratitude the presence of Pratibha. Lovely to see you. Shilpa, and of course, Purvi, who is constantly in touch from time to time, and also at sea. And for those delightful experiences and words that you shared about your memories of Tarun. For me, I think if I were to really look at my association with him, there are three stages. One, during the time when I came into the company and the time that he spent with me. And the second, of course, was the time when we continued to maintain our professional relationship and personal relationship. And the final phase when one really felt a lot of pain inside of me when we saw him going through some difficult moments before God called him back. All these are important phases about my relationship and my association with Tarun. I think all adjectives have been used to describe Tarun. There is hardly anything that is left behind for me to choose. But if I were to say, while celebrating the life of Tarun, I would say that he is an outstanding humanist. And only such rare people who are born once in a blue moon also leave such a huge footprint in the lives of all of us. And one of the things that I really found during the period when I used to work very closely with him was that he constantly looked out for the positives in other people. This is an unusual trait. Looking for the half filled rather than the half empty syndrome. And the other important aspect about Tarun is his capacity to disarm people. People have a natural propensity to open out and talk to him because of a number of characteristics our friends have described about him. that he is an authentic person. Of course, Purvi talked about it. That he is a person who combines humility with empathy. I think a lot of people have talked about it. But I think his capacity to collaborate with the lives of people, both during high point and also during low points, I think is something which is rare quality. And I can go on, and I don't think that I should actually take more time, excepting to say that during summer season, and Pratibha talked about it, there are occasions when he will call and say, look, RR, if you are coming from Bangalore to Mumbai, keep an evening free because armrests is all getting chilled and hot puris to follow with it. And of course, the whole family and the fellowship that we enjoyed, including the time my daughter Nisha, who spent a lot of time with Tarun during her sort of conflicting choices that she encountered in her life, I think Tarun has been one of our closest and dearest friends, and I'm sure that he lives in our memory as long as we live. May his soul rest in peace, and may I also compliment all the young students and also BMA for celebrating an outstanding leader in Tarun.
Thank you, Mr. Nair. We have with us Mrs. Pratibha Shet.
Can I say about?
Yeah.
Vikram?
Yeah.
Can I say about? Vikram?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Vikram, good evening to everyone. I'm Pramod, member of the managing committee of the BMA, and I have been associated with BMA quite a few decades. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Tarun Sheth many times. He used to be very close to BMA. Whenever we invited him for any lectures or any studies for the management team, he would always used to cooperate very well. We have very high regards and respect for him. And today, I would like to congratulate Mr. Kiran and also our then Mr. Indapalji for organizing such a lecture and the memory of Mr. Tarun Sheth. It is an excellent celebration which would be motivating for many youngsters to imbibe as to what the quality of Mr. Tarun Sheth was there. So we are very proud of our organization also and our team of PMA who have been taking lead to having a leadership lectures like this and give some benefit to youngsters, elders, and also to the seniors also. Because when you learn certain things from their daughters, from his wife, Pratibha Shet, we are very proud of the entire family, and we would love to listen more things again and again from the family as to what were the good episodes in his life. And we wish his family all the well, and wish BMA also all well, because we had been in touch with such good, talented people, which is difficult to get in life also sometimes. Thank you very much, and wish you everybody good night. And also remember the memory and follow some of the qualities of what Mr. Tarun Sheth had got. Even if we follow 10% of his quality, our talk today is fulfilled. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramod Bhai. I think we have a time schedule to keep, so if you all permit me, first of all, apologies that we are having an incomplete session for Tarun Sheth, minus the amras and minus the delicacies that he would have rolled out for all of us if he was around today. But before I go to the end, I'm going to request Pratibha ma'am to come in if she feels like and give us her last bit of inputs on what, if he was around today, would be the number one thing in his mind. If you look at the fact that today the United Nations talks about the 5th SDG, which says gender equality. Okay, Tarun Sheth practiced that way back in 1978. Okay, and I think that's more of a management lesson than anybody can teach us. Okay, everything else is mere words. So, Pratibha, when you represent to us Mr. Tarun Sheth. So we would like to listen from you how you think we should uh, be moving ahead. What would be the single thing on Mr. Tarun Sheth's mind to advise us
Yeah.
today?
Single thing on Tarun Sheth's smile. I didn't get the question.
Tarun
Sheth's smile.
What, what would Tarun Bhai be saying to us if he was with us today?
If he was with you.
He is with us in spirit, but
Definitely, God bless you. And definitely, whatever you do in life, look at what you're doing and try to keep yourself in the line of what needs to be done. So he would not have ever advise, but he would say, see from the actions what you are doing. And usually we like to mentor people, and we like people to come to us and tell us what they are doing, what would they like to do, and how you are going to do. So he would be interested in mainly students because he was a teacher, and he would try to help them as much as possible. So
Thank you so much, Pratibha ma'am. I think you've said it in one sentence that his advice would be, don't take advice, but look at yourself. I think that's absolutely
yes.
true. Right. I think we've had a wonderful session. We've learned so much more about Mr. Tarun Sheth that by us jointly sharing so many aspects of his life, and we've all experienced them, and we've already felt them, and they all came alive back again today. So, first of all, I would like to thank the Sheth family for helping us to
thank you.
Get this audio visual out to the group of BMA members and the management students who are connected with us. Thank you so much, and let me
Thank
assure
you, Kiran, for doing this. It is done very well, and the students have worked very hard to do it. So I congratulate them.
Yeah.
And any time you need any help or anything, please tell us.
Ma'am, the students are listening in, and I'm sure they'll come back because they just keep discussing about the wonderful food and delicacies that they get the moment they reach out to you anytime. Thank you so much. I would like to thank our friends from HUL and the corporate world who joined us today to celebrate Mr. Tarun Sheth, and some of you have, are actually way past midnight and are still with us. So thank you so much for being with us and helping us to understand what Tarun Sheth was all about. I would like to thank the neighbors of Mr. Tarun Sheth, the relatives and the staff who also joined us today in celebrating him. I would like to thank the BMA senior members, the past presidents, our members, and office bearers and fellow students for making this a memorable evening for us. Thank you for your presence on this special occasion. BMA strives to bring to you the best, the most updated, and the next thought and practice in management education. And this is an initiative that every member in BMA tries to contribute to. So, We would urge you to become a member of the BMA family. Uh,
I'm
member-
already
membership.
a
No,
permanent member of this.
this is for
Permanent
those who are
member
not
of
members.
BMA.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. Uh, for those who are still not joined, kindly understand that the membership fee of BMA is equal to the cost of a regular pizza which you would have probably every other day. So do take advantage and get in to the BMA family and support our initiatives. Let me take the advantage of wishing you all a very great day ahead and God bless you all. Thank you.